Good morning. Welcome to episode 3 of Unwind and Knit with me. Welcome back if you are an existing viewer, and welcome if you're a new viewer. I'm in Christchurch, which is the South Island of New Zealand, and I talk about all things knitting and wool. So get yourself a cup of tea or coffee and just kick back with your knitting, and hopefully I can entertain you for a little while. I've got to say, it's, I think, the second day of spring, but it's certainly a winter's day here in Christchurch. It's grey, it's drizzly, it's just not a great day out there. So good thing that we're inside knitting. Yeah, so like I said, welcome. Please subscribe, hit the button below and subscribe. Like if you like, and feel free to leave me any comments. I do get back to everyone that leaves me comments. First of all, I'll talk about what I'm wearing, and I started off by telling you that it's a really miserable grey rainy day here, so I'm wearing a nice old comfortable raglan jersey. This pattern is Hohilokotali and it's called Basic Raglan. It's one of my favourite patterns. I've talked about it before, and it's just a jersey that I love. I wear it with jeans, I wear it with denim skirts and tights. Yeah, it's one of my go-to jerseys, and it's one that I recommend a lot. It's a really nice introduction to top down. If you're just starting to knit on circular needles and you want a top down jersey, this is a really good introduction for beginners. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, so that's what I'm wearing. It is a double knit, 8 ply, and I actually can't even tell you what yarn I used. It was yarn from my stash that I'd bought a long time ago. This is probably about 3-year-old, and I'd probably had the yarn in my stash for 5 years before that. I purchased it just at a local yarn store, but it's just a good old New Zealand 8 ply, 100% merino wool. Yeah. So that's what I'm wearing, and I am quite excited to tell you that I've got a finished object. Yay, because I have so many works in progress that it's really nice to bring you something finished. I showed you last time I was working on my Floozy 2, which is a Libby Johnson pattern, but I've done my summer version. So I've done it a bit cropped in the body, and I've done it short sleeved. And here it is, the finished object. Show you there. I've got to say, it's blocked out beautifully. You'll know when you do a bit of colour work that sometimes the colour work looks a bit bumpy, but I blocked that, cold water blocked it and laid it out on mats and pinned it out, and you can see there it's just blocked out beautifully. The pink that I used there was yarn by Yarn Therapy, and it has got 10% linen in it. That's the band there, Yarn Therapy. That was from my stash. The main colour that I used was the black yarn, which is a 4-ply merino from Fibre to Go. It's called her Primo range. It's actually an Italian merino that she brings in and she hand dyes here in New Zealand. And I must say, it will be my go-to black. You know, it's just such an amazing black yarn. The stitch definition is excellent. It feels really nice against the skin, and if I was to knit something in black again, I think that would be my choice. So I will leave the links for that yarn, Fibre to Go. I'll leave the links in the comments below if you want to go on and have a look at that. I did hope to have some more finished objects, but I've got one that's almost finished. I'll show it to you. Hopefully I'll have it finished for our next episode. I'm sure I will have. This is the one I've been working on. It's called the Kuta Tea. Is it there? I should have taken it out of the plastic. I'm into short sleeve tops at the moment. My Floozy 2 I adjusted to be short sleeve. This top is also short sleeve. I haven't done a lot of summer knitting in the past, but this year it's what I'm liking, is the summer knits. So this is my Kuta Tea, and I am really happy with it. You can see there, I do believe that lace work will block out a lot smoother. So I'm just working on the body and then 2 short sleeves. So what I've got to go is the easy part, just all stockinette stitch. I've done that in a yarn called Bellissimo, and it's 50% merino, 50% cotton. It's the first time I've used this blend of wool, and I'm actually enjoying it. I did make the mistake of not swatching. I should have done a swatch, because if I'd done a swatch I probably would have gone down a size. I've got a feeling it's going to be a little bit big. But it will be interesting to see how it blocks out, and if I'd done a swatch I would have known that. That's my fault. We should swatch. Like, I normally do swatch, and the main reason I swatch is because I do want to see what the end fabric is going to look like and what it's going to feel like. But I thought, hey, it's only a summer tea, it'll be right. But yeah, fingers crossed it will fit. If anything, it'll be a little bit on the too big side. And I thought, well, worst case scenario, it's a little bit big. I'll gift it to a friend of mine who is a size or 2 bigger than I am. So if it doesn't fit me, it'll go to a good home. But yeah, a little bit angry with myself for not doing a swatch. And talking about swatches, if you watched episode 1, you'll know that I was working on this number. This is called Miss Arena, and it's by Caitlin Hunter. And it's also a summer tee. I'll show you that bit of colour work there. Going on. So there's a bit of lace work through the top, cabling and colour work. So it's got a bit of everything. Now I got that about 2/3 finished, and I had to pull it all out because I wasn't happy with the fabric, and I wasn't happy with how the yarn was performing at all. So I did pull it all out, and I did a swatch, and I went up half a needle size. And I'm really happy with that now. It has dragged on a little bit because I've done it and undone it and doing it again. But I think it'll be worth it. For those that haven't seen it, that's the pattern there. So even the colours I've chosen are quite close to what's been done in that pattern. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I do want to get it finished, and I hope to have that finished for you next time. It's, like I said, it has drawn on a little bit, but I am enjoying it. I do really enjoy colour work. One contrasting colour or 2 contrasting colours I'm good with. I think anything more than 2 may be a little bit of a challenge, but I'm always up for a new challenge. So I said in my last podcast that every year I try to set myself a challenge for the new year. The last 2 years I've done a pair of Cell Boost socks, which I showed in my last episode, and also the Stephen West shawl, which I've got behind me here. And I've been given some thought to what my challenge will be for next year. And I'm pretty sure that it's going to be a Marie Wallen jersey. And I may even try a cardigan that's knitted in the rounds and then steeped. It will be a big challenge because I've never steeped before, but I look at her work all the time. I look probably once a week. I jump on her website and look at what's available and the kits and where to get the yarn. And I'm always so tempted, but I think, oh no, hold off. But I think that may be my challenge for next year. And I think I will actually buy the kit that has all of the yarn, because some of her work can have like 8 or 10 different colorways. So I think I will buy the kit. I'll lash out. It's like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it properly. But yeah, watch this space. We'll see what happens there. Marie Wallen, will it be or will it won't be? But yeah, that's my challenge, I think. I haven't made much progress with my sock knitting. I do have socks on the needles all the time. Love my hand knitted socks. Love knitting them for the family, and I love gifting them. I think in episode 1 I showed you a pattern, and the reason I wanted to show you this one is because it is actually a free pattern, and it's called Brainless, and there's some really neat features there around the heel. It's also got cabling down the sides of the foot, up the leg, and then quite an interesting heel. Now that pattern is on Ravelry and it's called Brainless. It's toe-up, and I'm doing it on circular needles. I have made a start, which is why I thought I'd show you. I have made only a little start. I've just started the toe, and I am doing it on circulars using the magic loop method. I had a couple of questions after my first episode about sock knitting, and a couple of people asked me what I recommended as a beginner sock pattern. And the 2 patterns that I started with are, one of them is called Socks on a Plane, and the other one is called Toe-up Socks with a Difference. I will put the links for those below. They're both available on Ravelry. They are paid for patterns. I really like the idea of knitting toe-up, and that's why those 2 patterns appealed to me as opposed to cuff down. So when I start a pair of socks, I wind the yarn off into 2 balls, 250-gram balls each, and I weigh them. And the reason I do that, and the reason I love toe-up, is because you can just keep knitting rather than always having leftover yarn. And I don't mind a longer sock. What I tend to do with is, once I get up into the leg and the calf, is I may do a couple of increases just to allow for the wider part of the leg. But yeah, doing toe-up allows you to do that. It allows you to use up a bit more yarn, and I do just find them fun to do. And the other question I got asked was what needles I use to do my socks. And the ones I would recommend, I use Chalgoo, but they're a circular needle, and I use the 100cm cable. And I think that's quite kind of important, because if you get one with only a 60cm or even an 80cm cable, it becomes a bit tricky when you're pulling it through. You pull that out to knit. If your cable is too short, it can be a bit restrictive. So I thought I would just mention that if you're going to get yourself a pair of circular needles for socks, is to get the 100cm. The other reason I like Chalgoo is because the cable never twists or kinks. You never get bends in it. They're a really reliable circular needle. I know there's a lot of places that sell them online. I buy mine online from Kiwiana here in Christchurch, but that's only because she's local, and it's just there's no use paying unnecessary freight. So have a look in your local area who sells Chalgoo, and that's my recommendation. 2.5 is fairly standard for a sock. I do tend to use 2.25, and I get a tighter gauge, and the fabric I feel is a lot denser and more durable. If I'm knitting a large sock, like for a size 12 foot, then I may go up to a 2.5 or a 2.75, and that means the fabric is just a wee bit looser to allow for a bigger foot. But you'll work that out as you go along, whether you want your sock to be in a tighter gauge or a looser gauge. But a 2.5 is a good starter, and like I said, the 100cm cable. Don't get the shorter one. I think you will regret it. I've tried a few times to do mine on a shorter cable, and I do get quite frustrated, and I end up transferring them onto a longer cable. So yeah, that's my small talk about sock talk, because I just haven't made too much progress with socks. I've just had too many other things on that I've really enjoyed doing. I also think, because we're in lockdown, when I'm not going out, and socks was a little project that I would always take with me when I went out. So being at home, I tend to be just working on bigger projects. So maybe that's why I'm not getting much sock knitting done, because I'm not going out anywhere. So yeah, so that's that. I do have I always have a couple of things on my wish list. So things that I want to cast on. I have the patterns here and I have the yarn, so I thought I'd share that with you. I think because we've been in lockdown, I've really had to look hard at my stash, and you'll see my stash here behind me. I'm quite proud of my stash. But in saying that, that is all of my stash. I know some people that have stashes that are a lot bigger than mine. With mine, what you see is what you get. I don't have boxes under beds or yarn stashed away in drawers or spare cupboards, or I've got none hidden everywhere. So although it looks like a pretty impressive stash, that's it. There's no more hidden anywhere else. But I have had to look at my stash because yeah, we can't even buy online because I think some freight's starting to get out just now, but I know in Auckland I don't think they can send freight. Yeah, so we're doing a bit of stash diving, and I think that's really good, and I think it's a really healthy thing to do. It's too easy just to buy new yarn for new projects, so it's good to do a bit of stash diving. One of the patterns on my list of ones that I want to cast on is called Ember. Now, I saw this recently. Marie from Skeins, she interviewed Julie from Honey Hooley's Yarn, and Julie was wearing this jersey, and I had to have it. I just loved it. I loved it on her, and I thought, and I loved the colour work, so I did. It is a paid for pattern on Ravelry. It's it there. It's called Ember, and it's colour work, but it's cropped, it's loose fitting, and you can do it in a short sleeve or a long sleeve version. And I went through my stash, and I actually had these two here from Yarn Therapy, which I thought would be perfect for the blue and white, the two contrast colours. But what I have had to do is buy the main colour, and I have ordered that. I don't expect to get it anytime soon because it has to be sent to me from Auckland, but I've got it from Yarn Therapy. So she had it's a very autumny terracotta sort of colour, which I haven't used before, so I'm really looking forward to using it. So I have had to buy two skeins of that for the main body, but I did have these two in stash. So that is one that I'm going to cast on, and if you're looking for one for yourself with a bit of colour work, you may, if you're in New Zealand and you follow Skeins diaries, you may have seen Julie wearing that. But yeah, quite excited about doing that one. The other one, let me lean over here. The other one that's on my wish list is Night Blooms sweater. That's it there. And once again, it's just a nice yoke, colour yoke. It's in DK wool. Excuse me. I just had to have a bit of coffee. I had a wee frog in my throat. Yeah, so back to this Night Blooms. It is a DK knit, a coloured yoke. The colour work in the pattern, I've recommended held together two strands of fine mohair silk. But like I said, I've done a bit of stash busting and I didn't have mohair silk, so I've changed it. I have done a swatch for the main body. Now this yarn is a New Zealand merino. I bought this in a 1 kilo cone from a farm called Palliser Ridge. It's in the North Island. beautiful, beautiful part of the world. My husband and I were lucky enough to be there for the weekend, and we stopped in at the factory shop, and they were selling it, yeah, in 1 kilo cones. And I wasn't quite sure whether it was going to be a bit rough, but I have swatched it and I have washed it, and I think once you wash it, it kind of blooms and it does soften quite a bit. And because I've got so much of it, I've got a couple of sweater quantities worth. I thought I should use it, and I thought this would be the perfect pattern. And in my stash, I had some of this. It's a merino Angora silk. So it's a Cleckheaton that I would have got at my local yarn store many years ago. I don't even know if it's still available. This has seriously been in my stash for a long time, maybe 5 or 10 years. But I thought that would look really nice for the colour work. And I got gauge, so yeah, I think it'll be quite a quick knit, and I think it'll be quite just a nice staple piece in my diary, a bit like this one that I'm wearing, just a really good go-to double knit jersey, and one, like I said, I can get to use some of my stash. I think that's quite important sometimes. None of us like lockdown, but I think it's quite good that it's forced us to have a look at what we've already got rather than spending money on what we don't really need. So yeah, I don't know if I'll have that cast on by the time I do my next podcast, but I thought I would share it with you, and mainly share the patterns with you in case you just are looking for ideas. I thought I'd share with you some of the patterns that I've got that I would like to cast on. There's just not enough knitting hours in our days. Even when I get to knit all day, I still sort of go to bed thinking, oh, I wish I had achieved a bit more. I wish I'd done a bit more of that sleeve, or yeah. Oh well, we get done what we can. The other pattern I'll talk about, and I know that you will all have heard of this, it's been a really popular pattern and it's been around for a while, and that's Love Note by Tin Can Knits. It's it there. If you don't know of it, you should. If you haven't seen it, maybe you've heard of it but haven't seen it, that's it there. It is a paid for pattern on Ravelry, and I have knitted it before and I gifted it to a friend. I loved it. It knitted up quickly. I loved the lace work. I loved the shape of it. Everything about it I really enjoyed. And I do want to do another one for myself in black, because I enjoy wearing black. I do wear a lot of black. And I mentioned it to a friend, and she very kindly gifted me some, it's like an 8-ply weight black silk merino. That's it there. It's so soft. It's so yummy. She had bought this overseas some time ago, but struggled to knit with black. She just didn't enjoy knitting with it, and it was sitting in her stash, and she really very kindly gave it to me, which I was just stoked about. I mean, to get a sweater's worth of quantity gifted to you is pretty special, I think. So I am going to cast on a black Love Note. Black is one of those colours that I have heard people say they struggle to knit with. I have just knitted my black floozy too that I showed you before. I do knit with a good light, so when I'm sitting in my lounge, I have a spotlight that sits up behind the back of me on a pole that directs down. So I do have very good lighting for knitting. I do think black mohair may be a bit different though. So it'll be interesting to see whether I have the same problem, because my friend that gifted this to me is a very accomplished knitter. She's an amazing knitter, and I would say her knitting skills far outweigh mine. But maybe it was just the colour. But I'll see how I go, and I will let you know how I go. So yeah, Black Love Note. That's another one that I think I'll cast that on next, actually, before the two I just showed you, the amber and the Night Blooms, but I think I will cast on the Love Note first, because I also know that that's quite a quick knit, and I probably could get that done in a week if I focused on it. But I never focus on just one thing. I tend to be all over the place, really. And there's one more pattern that I want to show you. And once again, I found the yarn for it in my stash. Oh, yeah. It's Andrea Mowry, and it's called Stripes. There we go there. And I had a quick look before I come on to film this, and I think there was 8 or 9 colours. I think there was 9. But I think you could do any number of stripes. I think you could alter the width of the stripes, and you could do it in 4 colours, 6 colours, 8 colours. I think there's a lot of room for movement. But I just happen to have this bag of Outlaw yarn, and I'm hoping you can see the colours there. There's a real assortment of colours: green, mustard, apricot, blue, black, there. And I also have a couple of more colours as well. Now, I purchased this yarn originally for another Stephen West shawl. It's the same yarn I used for this one. And I attempted to cast it on. I think I got a very short way through and thought, no, I am not loving this. And I pulled it all out. And that's why I have all this yarn. So there's 9 balls there, and like I said, I've got about another half a dozen in various colours, but it will all knit up to the same gauge. So I'm going to pop all of that wool into this pattern, and I think it'll be amazing. I think I was just thrilled when I saw this pattern. I knew I wanted to do it, and when I went through my stash and come across this wool, it was like a match made in heaven. They were meant to be. So that yarn is going to become Stripes. So watch this space for that one. Once again, I don't know when I'll cast it on, but I do just like to share with you, I think, the patterns. It may give you some ideas. They may be patterns that you know, but they may be new to you. I hope they're new to you. I hope that I get to show you things that are new, things that maybe you haven't researched. But yeah, so that's it there. It's called Stripes. I think it looks quite basic, top down in the rounds. Yeah, I think that'll be a really nice knit. I just quickly wanted to talk, this is more for maybe new knitters or knitters that are just starting to knit in the round, top down, maybe a bit of lace work and colour work. If it's new to you, I just wanted to give you what I found to be really helpful tips. And I had this conversation recently with a friend who isn't a new knitter, but we tend to become a bit complacent and think, oh, I know what I'm doing, I've done this before, I'll be right. But one of the things that I do, and I wanted to share with you, if you're doing colour work, it's generally in repeats. So this one, I think it's about a 16 stitch repeat. So what I do for each repeat is I put in little stitch markers. I hope you can see them. There's a little blue one and a pink one. And as I go around, for every pattern repeat, I put a stitch marker. And it makes life a lot easier, especially if you get interrupted and you don't know where you're up to. Of course, then you only have to worry about those 16 stitches, not the whole round. And the other thing I use a lot is lifelines. Now, like seriously, it takes me 2 minutes to put a lifeline in. So I just get like an embroidery needle with a really fine cotton. I use a really fine embroidery thread. I've even heard of people using dental floss. But what you want is just something fine and slippery. And I weave that through all my stitches, and it's called a lifeline. And then I just knit along happily. What that allows is that if I do make a mistake and I have to rip it all back, I can rip it back to that lifeline and all my stitches are safe. And I do that because we do all make mistakes, and it's really difficult to pull work back when there's lace work, when you've got yarn overs and knit two together and slip stitches. So yeah, it's just a wee little reminder, lifelines and stitch markers. I have told you before, if you're sort of new to knitting or just getting back into knitting, about the YouTube Very Pink Knits. They do tutorials on all things knitting, and she does cover, there are tutorials on YouTube about lifelines and how to put them in. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention that. Like I said, I do think that we all become a little bit, I don't know, almost a little bit cocky. I'll be right, Jack, I've done this before, and before you know it, you're ripping it all back to the beginning and starting again. And no need to do that if you put lifelines in. So yeah, that's my little tip on lifelines. The other thing I wanted to talk about was, it was new to me when I come back to knitting, but that was wet blocking. I always block my garments after I finish knitting them, and of course it relaxes the yarn and makes everything sit nice. But sometimes it's nice to block things as you go. Now with this Kutar tee that I'm doing, you'll see that that lace work is really quite bunched up, and I did mention that I do really believe that once that's blocked out, it will sit nice and flat, and it will sort of drape a bit more nicely rather than being crunched up. But of course you don't want to go wet blocking it halfway through doing it, so I have borrowed off a friend, which I'm going to use. I have used it before, but it's this contraption. It's actually a steamer. It's a little handheld steamer. You plug it in, press, and steam comes out. And it can be used to iron garments, but you can steam block garments as you go. And I am going to do it on that. And it's really quite effective, especially on cable and lace work. It softens and it relaxes the yarn, and you really got to get an idea of the stitch definition, but it also, if it's going to drop or stretch a bit, you'll see that, and you can see that as you go. If you're in New Zealand, I did just order one from myself from Trade Me, and you can actually pick them up for under $40, and they're just little handheld steamers. I think they come under the category of laundry or clothes steamer. So yeah, I just sort of put that out there because I did do a wee bit of research, and I tried some local big department stores, and most of them are around $100. But on Trade Me, I suppose if you're in Australia, it's eBay, those type of sites. You can pick them up. I think I paid $38 for mine. I was a bit disappointed that I had to pay $10 freight, but so it worked out at $48 by the time I paid freight. And once again, that's coming out of Auckland, so I'm not sure when I'm going to get that. But if you've thought about the idea of steam blocking, you've probably heard about it. I just thought I'd share that with you, that they are available, and I thought for under $40, it's probably quite a good investment. And that way you can steam block as you go. Yeah, so that's my little tip on steam blocking. I think when I finish a garment, I will always wet block it. But yeah, steam block as you go. Okay, in my first episode, if you watched it, I discussed an app that's available called Bellish, where you can put in the yarn that you've got, and it creates a pattern for you. But I made an error, and I actually referred to it as belling, not bellish. So I apologise for that. One of my viewers corrected me on it. She sent me a message, so thank you for doing that. And it's a funny thing, because after I did that post, I don't go back and play them. I find it really difficult to sit there and watch myself. So I don't go back and play them. But I had this niggling feeling that I had referred to it as belling and not bellish. But I let it go, and I thought, no, surely I didn't do that. So what happened at the time of doing the filming of that episode 1, I had a new kitchen installed and I got a new oven and a new stove, and the brand of that stove and oven is called Ballin. And I think that's what was in my mind at the time, was the installation of my new cooking appliances. So I do apologise if you went out there looking for this app that I was talking about and you couldn't find it. Yeah, so it's called Bellish. And it is available on Apple. I don't think it's available on Android yet. I have created my first pattern using it, but I just haven't cast that pattern on. And like I said, there's basic patterns in there: socks, beanies, raglan jerseys, cardigan, I think, quite a bit of baby wear. And what you do is you pick the pattern that you want. You tell the program the yarn that you have, whether it's 4-ply or sports weight or double knit, and you pick the embellishments that you want, and then it creates the pattern for you. So yeah, it's a bit of fun, but yeah, it's called Bellish, Bellish. So I do apologise for that. That was my error. Also, yeah, on my last podcast I talked about the day I love the most, which is what I call cast on days, where I get my yarn out. Often I have to put the yarn using my ball winder from skeins into balls, and I get my needles ready and I get my pattern ready and I get all excited about starting a new project. But I also love project bags. And I think all knitters do. I think there's something in our psyche. I think knitters love project bags, and also most knitters that I know love stationery. So I love to put my nice little neat pad with it in my nice little project bag. So I thought in my next episode I would show you some of my favourite project bags. Also there's a local maker here in Christchurch who makes project bags, and I've got a couple of hers on their way to me. So I thought I'd wait until the next, excuse me, I thought I'd wait until the next episode, and I'll show you some project bags. And yeah, like I said, I think we all love a good project bag. And it's quite funny because a friend of mine is quite a good sewer, and the week before we went into lockdown, we'd got together and we said, right, next Friday we're going to have a sewing day at Lisa's house. I have a sewing machine and I have fabric, but I don't have the confidence to sew. And she was going to come over and give us a couple of sewing lessons, and we were going to create, another friend of mine, she was going to come over and we were going to create a couple of project bags. And of course that never happened because we went into lockdown on the Tuesday. So our Friday sewing date never happened. But that is something that I'm looking forward to once life gets back to normal. And that's doing a wee bit of sewing and maybe creating my own project bags. Yeah, like I said, I'm not a great sewer, but I do have a sewing machine. And yeah, I think once I'm shown the basics, yeah, watch this space. It might be something that I really enjoy and that I get into. I think it'd be really nice to make project bags when you get to pick your own fabric as well. Beautiful fabrics out there. And the other little venture that I thought I'd share with you is I recently bought some 4-ply merino naked skeins, and I want to dye them using avocado pips and avocado skins. I have seen some yarn dyed, and it's just a really nice neutral, the tone, I've never seen anywhere else that colour that it produces, but I don't know how to do it. So I have been saving all my avocado pips and skins, and I've washed them and I've put them in a bag and they're in the freezer. So if you've got any good tips, put them in the comments and send them to me, or a good book that details how to do it. I don't want to get into dyeing in a big way, and I don't want to become an indie dyer, but I thought it would be a lot of fun just to, as a one-off, create my own colour on these naked skeins using my avocados. So yeah, just share that with me if you've got any tips on books that will teach me how to do it, or any websites that may do a tutorial on how to do it. I've had people say to me, "Oh, it's not hard. You'll be able to do it. You'll have everything you need in your kitchen." But I do want to get it right. So yeah, that's another little thing that I'm thinking about doing. I don't know if any of you out there have done it. Like I said, I don't want to get into dyeing in a big way. That would be just a disaster, because I'd have to take over my kitchen. And I don't do things by halves. I either do it all or I don't do it. So yeah, just something that I thought I might dabble with. Okay, I think that's about all I've got for this episode. Like I said, I wish I had some more finished objects, but I haven't. I do hope to have some more on the next episode. Also, like I said, I've got a few things coming in the post once deliveries get back to normal, so I'll have a few new things to share with you. I'd like to thank everybody who has subscribed to my channel. I've had some really wonderful comments and feedback, and I really appreciate those. They kind of give me the confidence to keep going and do the next episode. So please make sure that you press the subscribe button below. So that's really important for me to know that I've got subscribers. Share it with your friends. Press the like button, and leave me any comments. You can also follow me on Instagram, and that's Lisa NZ Knitter. I'll write that in the comments below as well, but Lisa NZ Knitter. I'm fairly new to Instagram, like as in 3 weeks. So yeah, all of this social media and technology is very new to me. I'm not overly good at it. So I'm kind of just winging it as I go. So bear with me while I try to get it all together. And yeah, like I said, you can follow me on Instagram. Please subscribe to my channel and share it with your friends if you like it. And thank you very much. And I really look forward to seeing you all on episode 4. So stay safe, take care, and happy knitting, everyone. Thank you.